Great. I want to welcome everybody to our next episode of Initial Coin Opinions. And this is a great opportunity for all of you to listen to one of the best attorneys in the field of ICOs, Jeff Marks. He's a partner at Legal Alliance. Now, I know I share the same last name with Jeff, but we're unrelated, even though we're close friends. And probably, who knows, going back hundreds of years, maybe we're cousins. But ultimately, you have here one of the great experts in ICOs. In case you have questions, please, you can ask questions right away right directly on your YouTube screen. Type your questions in. I will get to see them. I'll answer them. Jeff will answer the questions. We're really making this event, this show, for all of you so that you can interact. So it's not just us telling you what's going on in the news with the ICO world. Anyway, let's start right now with Operation Crypto Sweep. Quite an interesting title, and there were a lot of articles in the press this week about Crypto Sweep. And basically what it is a bunch of state agencies. These are basically the state administrators. There are 50 of them in the United States, plus the SEC. And then he also has Canada that has its own set of agencies. They all got together as a group to target a lot of the fraudulent ICOs, and ICOs are not using regulation to raise capital, which in the rule of law is actually fraud. Even if the company is legally formed, even if the people are doing the right thing, if they're not using the right exemptions to registration, that's fraud. Anyway, that said, there was a big operation, lots of paperwork, subpoenas, inquiries, all sorts of things going on, freezing money in people's bank accounts, trying to stop a system that is defrauding investors. One of the things that you may have not read, or I hope you may have seen it, the Wall Street Journal, it turns out, made an incredible article. They spent a lot of time looking at most of the ICOs, and they found a couple hundred of them. There were obvious frauds where the pictures were fake, the people were fake, basically everything was fake, and even the white paper was fake. And people actually invested in those things, believe it or not. And guess what? There's not going to be any money returned unless the SEC and the state administrators can find them. And that's not always the easiest thing to do. But it really outlined the issue that we're all here to talk about, which is how do you actually raise money with an ICO in a legal manner so that, in a way, the state agencies, the SEC, and even Canada, they don't go after the entrepreneurs. So that's it. Let's get started. Jeff, tell us a little bit more about this whole thing.
Well, the one thing, Howard, I think it's important to note is I think there's a perception in the market that the SEC is trying to kill the ICO market, and I don't think that's the case. I mean, in the last several months, it's become evident through statements from the SEC and the chairman, Clayton, that they're really looking to stop fraud. They're really looking to protect investors, and so they're not just going after ICOs and not trying to quill the ICO market and quill this great new advance in securities, this new evolution of a security. They're really just going after fraud, because there is a lot of fraud out there.
Well, yes, there's fraud, but let me ask you a question. If someone has an ICO and they just issue utility tokens for a blockchain technology that doesn't exist, they're legal. I mean, they're really a company. The principals are who they are. They have the right picture on the screen. The white paper actually is real. Is that legal or fraud?
Well, it's legal if you comply with the securities laws. And, this all goes back to the whole debate of, trying to make their token a utility token. So it's, doesn't fall within the securities laws. And so if they're not complying with the securities laws, then, they face potential SEC action and lawsuits and things like that. I mean, the bottom line is that, anybody that's, for the most part, and I can't make a qualification, but anybody that's participating in an ICO or buying, these people are buying because they're expecting an appreciation of those tokens and being able to sell them for a profit. And in my opinion, that makes them securities. That alone makes them securities.
Okay, well, but then let's assume they are securities, but they're being sold as a utility token because the reason is very simple. If they're sold as a utility token, that means that all of the exchanges, the so-called exchanges out there, like Kraken and Shapeshifter and Binance, Bittrex, tons of them, they will actually maybe list that token. But if they say it's a security, well, I guess they won't. Is that correct?
Well, that's what I'm hearing in the market, but I think the clock is ticking on those exchanges anyway, with respect to at least U.S. traders, people trading in the United States and companies in the United States.
So yes, so basically the SEC and the state administrators are going to put pressure on those exchanges, to so-called exchanges, to either register as an exchange, which are only 20 of them in the United States, or become a broker-dealer, ATS. Is that correct?
I agree. I would agree. Yeah.
Okay, so to the extent that they want to do it, they'll do it. To the extent they don't want to do it, what happens next?
I think if they don't want to, if they're within the United States, they're physically within the United States, they're going to face some trouble, potential criminal violations. If they're outside of the United States, I think what you'll see is they'll just block U.S. URL investors from participating.
Right. So that creates a huge opportunity for those who want to create broker-dealer ATSs or filing as an exchange. Which, by the way, for those who don't know what it means to file as an exchange, is basically you go to the SEC and you say, I want to create a new exchange, and there are only 20 of them. About I calculated the last time was about 20, and it takes 5 years to do it. I just want to caution people to understand that it's not just, oh, let me create an exchange, and the next day you have an exchange. I don't know, Jeff, have you ever been involved in this?
No, I have not. I have not.
But you've been involved in broker-dealers, right?
No, I'm not. That's kind of not my area of expertise. I know a little bit about it, but.
Well, for those who don't, becoming a broker-dealer is very simple. You apply to the SEC, and if they deem, okay, you can become a broker-dealer because there are no bad actors, people are it's duly formed, everything is fine. Then they require that one of the regulators, which is FINRA in this case, to also review the company. Once that's good, you're good to go. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's some legal costs and some extra time to spend. Oh, one of the things is the principals of the company, and those who are talking to customers are going to have to go and get Series 7, 63, 79, 24, a combination of those. So it's extra work, but at the end of the day, these regulations exist because of prior issues that happened in the finance industry. And again, SEC is trying with the regulators their best to protect the investor. So let's go to the next topic, which is how to expand the blockchain communities legally. Because people create these ICOs, and now they're selling them under Reg D 506C, which means they can solicit people, but they have to be accredited. So they end up with raising 20, 30 million, 10 million, 5 million, and yet it's 20 people, 30 people, 50 people, but it's not 5,000 people. And obviously, they would like to have a community around the blockchain to make it successful. So, Jeff, what's your view on this?
So I think a lot of companies are thinking, a lot of people I talk to are thinking about raising their money, but they're not thinking about the greater blockchain ecosystem they're trying to create. And I think in most cases that involves, and a lot of companies believe that involves kind of the exchange or use of tokens within their system. And what I think some companies are not looking at is, well, most people that are going to be in their community are not accredited investors, right? So how do you issue them your tokens, or whether they're utility or whatever, how do you issue them within your ecosystem to people that are non-accredited? Assuming you issued them to accredited investors, you've got a 1-year lockup period, which doesn't make sense for a lot of companies if they're trying to create kind of an economy within their blockchain. And there's two ways you can do this. And so the question is how do you get tokens in use in a company's ecosystem so they can be freely traded and used by unaccredited investors, unaccredited contributors to your platform. And there's two ways to do that. One is Reg CF, but there's a 1-year lockup period on that. So really the only way to get immediately free trading currency in a company's ecosystem is through Reg A+. You can get that to accredited investors and unaccredited investors, and it's freely tradable. This is something that we're contemplating doing, with the Kodak blockchain, which is a transaction I'm working on. Part of the business model, may involve, compensating contributors and photographers, for photos they contribute to the site, or for license fees that they're able to extract using the Kodak blockchain image rights management platform. And most of those contributors are not going to be accredited investors. And so the way we're contemplating dealing with that is by potentially filing a Reg A+, so we can issue under that Reg A+ tokens to those contributors who are not accredited and which become freely tradable.
So you're going to issue tokens for free to those community people? Like, let's take the Kodak coin, for example, as an example. Obviously, this is not decided on. But let's say there are 50,000 photographers who want to participate in the Kodak ecosystem. They love the idea of being able to have their photos be on the blockchain and be paid for it if people want to use it. But yes, they need the coins in order to post the pictures and in order to trade and receive money and sell them, etc. Right?
Yeah, as currently contemplated, and again, disclaimer, I'm not sure if any of this has changed, but a photographer would post his photograph on the blockchain, and the blockchain, the technology would go out and find infringers of those photographs through its image rights, through its digital image technology, and collect license fees. And as currently contemplated, those license fees, we would like to have those license fees paid in Kodak coins, in that currency. And so how do we do that if a photographer is not accredited? The only way to do that is through Reg CF or Reg A+. Reg CF, we're limited to only $1 million, $1.70 million a year. And when that photographer gets those Kodak coins, they're locked up for a whole year. But through Reg A+, we can go up to $50 million a year, which gives us a lot of flexibility to grow, and gives photographers Kodak coins that they can now turn around and use in other ways in the ecosystem, because they're not restricted.
Right. So why don't you explain to people here how you go about this Reg A+? I mean, it sounds great, but what really are the steps for doing exactly what you're saying?
The steps for Reg A+. Well, the Reg A+ involves preparing a pretty significant disclosure document, filing it with the Securities and Exchange Commission. And the Securities Exchange Commission has to qualify the offering. And so what happens is you do your initial filing. The SEC will come back with comment letters on things that they think need to be changed or explained better, and then you send you do an amendment and you send a response to their letter, and then they come back maybe with more changes, and this activity goes on back and forth until the SEC is happy with your filing, and then they qualify it, and then you can begin selling. Now, generally, this process takes. I've gotten them through on non-token offerings in 40 days. Sometimes they could take 60 or 90 days, but things are moving slower on the token side.
Well, okay. Let's assume you get qualification. Now, this whole process is great, but can you do it yourself? Because don't you have to, every time someone wants to invest, do an OFAC check, money laundering review, on the requirements with Regulation A plus that require at least you, the issuer who is raising money, to check on those investors and escrow and all these complications?
Yes, it's an arduous task for an issuer to do it to do it by themselves. You need to do KYC checks. You need to take money, or you should take money into escrow. You need an electronic means uh, of of, uh, of people to how people can subscribe, uh, how people can pay. That's where a platform like StartEngine, which in my opinion is the best platform out there, and I don't say that just because we share the same last name, but that's where a platform like StartEngine comes in, because they handle all of these things kind of on the back end through themselves and through their affiliates.
Okay, so you got you as an attorney who can handle all the paperwork, and then you have a platform like StartEngine that can handle uh, the process and the marketing. What else is that all a company will need, or do they need to go on Telegram and they have to get people to be willing to receive those airdrops, right?
Are we talking about airdrops specifically, or
Well, you could give it away for free, or you could actually sell it. I mean, I don't know what
right?
how you think about it. Either one, it's still a securities transaction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you've got to with you've got to market. You got to be able to market what you're doing, and StartEngine gets a lot of uh, StartEngine's got a great crowd, and they've got a lot of organic traffic, but you still have got to market. You still have got to market it and get it out there. And whether you use Telegram or social media, other kinds of social media, you definitely have got to market it and get it out there.
Right. But let's make the assumption that if you go out and say, look, I have a Reg A plus, I'm raising capital, I'm doing an ICO, here's my plan, here's the white paper, it's legal because now I'm using Reg A plus, maybe I use Reg D, 506C. What about how do they go out and find those investors? Because that's pretty important. I mean, to find them. Is it because they went out and did a roadshow, or because a platform is helping them, or they're doing Facebook ads, although Facebook now and Google is, saying you don't like ICOs? What are they supposed to do?
That's that's the $1 million question. The one thing I can say is that there are companies. I know that StartEngine handles certain marketing, and there are other companies that specialize in crowdfunding marketing. And so I've actually had a lot of clients that have just hired their typical regular marketing firm that they're in-house. They use their in-house department to try to market these things, but I think it's important that companies really go to a marketing firm that kind of specializes and knows their way around, because it's a very around crowdfunding marketing, because it really is a very specific
Right.
type of marketing. And back to the airdrops. One thing that there's a lot of companies that have done airdrops. Airdrops really are illegal, right? Unless you comply with the securities laws, even if you're not taking consideration or taking any money in exchange for the security. So even if a company goes out and says, sign up for our Facebook account and we'll airdrop you, 10 tokens, that's a securities transaction, and that needs to comply with the securities laws. And we were talking about this yesterday, Howard. Regulation CF could be a very interesting way, to do airdrops in a cost-effective manner and in compliance with the securities laws.
So in a way, it suggests that if airdrops are consideration, even though you don't get money, and companies have done airdrops, I've seen it. in a way, they violated a certain side of the Securities Act because they've delivered a security to investors who are not paying, but they're offering their consideration as a sign up.
Yep.
Therefore, that could be a big problem because if they get sued or the SEC goes after them, they may have to do a full rescission, give everybody the option to re-get a new airdrop under Reg A Plus or Reg CF, right? So in a way, you still have to go back and do the right regulation.
Yes.
So,
yes.
So for a company doing an airdrop, might as well just use Reg CF or Reg A Plus. I mean, it's silly to say, okay, you know what, I'm just going to take my chances because not only the regulators can go after you, but even the people receiving the airdrop, even though they didn't pay for it, they have a legal claim, don't they?
Yes, yes, probably. But by the way, this goes back to like a while back, a long time ago. Domino's Pizza did you sign up. Anybody that signed up for some kind of promotion got a chance to win a 10,000 shares of Domino's stock. The SEC, there was an enforcement action, even though nobody paid any money to sign up. That was deemed a securities transaction.
Wow. Okay, well, given that the Jobs Act permits you to do regulation crowdfunding, which is so you could give away 10,000 people 10,000 people can get $10. No, $100. How much? You have $1 million, right? So in a way, you could do 10,000 people with $100, and bam, that's legal. Or you could go Regulation A Plus, where you can give away $50 million. So that could be, $10 for 50,000 people, which would be, no, 500,000 people for $10, or $100 for 50,000 people of free equity. Is that how you would calculate it?
Yes. I mean, somebody can go out with a $50 million Reg A Plus, and I'm not exactly sure how this would work, and there'd be back and forth with the SEC, but essentially the consideration could be the purchase price is signing up for, registering for a service or signing up. I guess theoretically that could be the consideration, and
right.
You can go out and. But theoretically, you could do that under a Reg CF, right? Because you're not necessarily putting a value on what a sign up is, and so you could theoretically do an unlimited number, possibly, under a Reg A Plus.
You could say, okay,
under a Reg CF,
each coin is 10 cents, and now let's go, $1 million divided 10 cents. That's 10 million people. I mean, that's exactly. A huge number, right?
So you could reach a huge number of people cost effectively and in compliance with the securities laws, but you need to do that through a platform, through a start engine or
like a funding portal. And there's Start Engine, there's Republic, WeFunder, Seed Invest.
Right.
There are about 20 of them in the country. Perfect. Okay, well, let's go to the next subject that I think is interesting, because a lot of people are concerned about their ICO not working because there's no way to do a liquidity event where people who buy those coins in the ICO are not able to trade them. And if they can't trade them, well, why would they buy them? I mean, frankly, that's the whole idea of the ICO is you make an investment and then you turn around and the next day you can sell them. And you explained, Jeff, that if you use Regulation A Plus, you can sell them the next day. So that's fully tradable. Or Regulation A as crowdfunding or Regulation D, you have a 1-year lock, which is not ideal, but at least you have you can tell your investors, look, in a year from now, there's a possibility that it could be traded. Now, the marketplace has seen tZERO come out with their, I would say, ATS, alternative trading system. There's Templum that has one. There's some other people who are applying. I heard a rumor there are 12 applications in the SEC right now for these ATSs to trade crypto, coins, tokens. Now, how is that going to work? That's what we should talk about. So people understand, if you have issued a security clearly that's not going to be acceptable to a Kraken or a shapeshifter. They're just going to look at this and say no. So then where should they go? And the idea here is these ATSs will be a place they can go. And none of them, I don't know if any, are any of them live? Jeff, are you aware of anyone that is actually trading?
There was I saw an article where the SEC actually approved one.
That's the post share, the post shares or share posts.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, and that came
out. So that's great. So here you have an ATS share post. It's now a broker dealer. You have an ATS. Typically, what they used to do is if you were an employee at Facebook before Facebook went public, obviously, and you're leaving the company, but you have like 100,000 options to buy shares, and you need to put up the money. That may be more than you have in your pocket. That could be $50,000. But then SharePost would come to you and say, "Hey, don't worry, I have a buyer for those. Negotiate the price. Let's say it's $1 million, and we'll just exercise it for you. We'll put up the money. We'll give you $1 million, and then those shares are going to be owned by this new person." And SharePost did the whole transaction, and they were quite successful at it. And now they are saying they can do crypto trading, which is great, but only, I read, for accredited investors. I don't know if you saw that, Jeff.
I think so.
So if it means it's only accredited investors, that's great, but it doesn't solve the problem for the ICO blockchain marketplace, which is the feedback I'm getting from a lot of people is like, look, we're sick and tired of seeing the rich get richer, as well as the accredited investors get everything, and then us, the ordinary person, Main Street investor, is going to get screwed again. It's not going to get opportunities, and then they can blame it on the regulators. However, great news is that's not exactly the case, because an ATS can work with unaccredited investors, right, Jeff?
I believe so, yes.
So that means that people who ICOs, when they issue the security tokens, what are their options so that they can actually trade it with consumers?
You mean Reg A Plus?
Reg A Plus, right? And Reg CF.
Yep.
So in a way, the gold standard, as Jeff was explaining, is Reg A Plus, only because you can trade the next day. It's unbelievable. It's like going public. I think it's similar. It's not that going public, obviously it's not, but it's still similar. And regulation crowdfunding is a 1-year lock. So you could do a Reg D with wealthy investors, get your money, and then you can do an airdrop with a Reg CF, and everybody waits a year, and then the trading happens on an ATS. Or you could do a Reg A Plus right off the bat and get accredited, non-accredited investors, raise up to 50 million, and the trading on an ATS happens the next day. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with that. I mean, it seems pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really opened up a lot of doors for not only for smaller companies, but for unaccredited investors to be able to participate in investments they couldn't have otherwise participated in before.
That's great. Well, that is really I think the gold standard, Regulation A+. You're going to be hearing about it a lot. At the end of the day, we've done, Start Engine, we've helped companies who had what Reg A+ is. It's great. It works. It's timely, cost effective. Some people call, it costs you $500,000. I don't think that's true. It's not $500,000. Now, it depends on, obviously, your company, your situation, but in most cases, you can find lawyers who will do it in cost-effective manner. And then once you're qualified, you have, I think it's a 1 year, right, Jeff, to raise the money?
Yeah, I mean, you can always, extend, file an amendment to extend it, but yeah, it's basically 1 year.
Well, that's perfect. So you have a 1 year or extension for a year. You can raise the capital. It's available. All of the shareholders now can trade their coins on an ATS. It seems to me as that's where the market's going to go in the next 12 months, 24 months. And Reg CF, obviously, the entry level is very, very low. I mean, it's in the $1,000. I mean, on Start Engine, you can start a Reg CF at no cost. You just file it yourself, or you use an attorney like Jeff, and it's under $10,000 the whole thing. It's pretty amazing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just going to say the great thing about this whole schemata is that you can start with, before you incur the expenses of a Reg A Plus, which is a lot less expensive than doing a public offering. I mean, ridiculously less. But you can test the waters through Reg CF to see if you're getting traction, and then you can use some of that, and you know, before you spend the money on a Reg A Plus, just to make sure that you know, what you're offering is attractive to investors and you can sell it out. But then there's this test the waters concept under Reg A Plus, which basically allows you to go out and see what kind of interest you're going to get in the offering, and see how much money you think you can raise before you spend all the money to go out and file with the SEC and qualify.
Right. So that's basically the SEC has given an extraordinary gift. I mean, really Congress who did it, but okay, let's give SEC the credit. An extraordinary gift, which is, look, you can follow regulation, you can follow the rules, and yet you can raise money from the ordinary consumer, someone who is not wealthy, who loves your blockchain application, wants to be part of the ecosystem, and you can do it legally under two regulations: regulation crowdfunding with just a 1-year restriction for trading, and regulation A plus. And you can do a combination, right? You can start with Reg D, Reg A plus, or Reg CF, and then Reg A plus. Isn't that possible? All these combinations?
Absolutely. In fact, there's a lot of companies are doing simultaneous offerings. Yeah.
So they would do like a Reg D and a Reg CF at the same time, right? So accredited investors raise $1 million, ordinary people raise $1 million, that's $2 million.
Yes.
And then they can do Reg A plus a couple of months later and raise $50 million.
Yes, sir.
Wow. I mean, I think, you know, a lot of people complain about the regulators. A lot of people complain about the fact that their laws, security laws. But look, with the Jobs Act, in a way, yes, it's not free, it's not zero, but it's doable, completely doable. And it protects the investor because all those rules are there to give investors the right protection. And if you look at the Wall Street Journal article, for those who read it, it is appalling. You got over 200 obvious ICO frauds where you have the picture of the CEO is the same picture of all the other CEOs, and it's fake. In fact, Jeff, the Kodak coin, if it existed, would have flagged those pictures, right? Because these are models.
Yes, but you know what's interesting is, really interesting, within 2 days after we made our announcement at CES for the Kodak coin, dummy websites started popping up. In fact, one website popped up that basically took all of our management team, put it up there, took our business plan, put it up there, and started and put a wallet address, trying to get people to thinking that they were investing in Kodak coin to, you know, send Bitcoin and Ethereum to these fraudsters. I mean, it was in like 2 or 3 of these things popped up.
And it's interesting because obviously they do that in defiance, complete defiance of the SEC, all the state administrators. They may not be in the US, right? I mean, did you ever figure out who they were?
No, they're outside of the US, and then you get into issues with, you know, some of the domain name companies, you know, cooperated, but some of them like wouldn't take the sites down. So it was a mess. So before anybody does an ICO, I suggest you go out and take all the variations, any kind of variation of your name, and try to reserve the URLs.
Because you can always do a misspelling and then what, you know?
Yeah.
But I think what we have to do is educate the investors so that they know if it's a regulation A plus, regulation crowdfunding, they can see that the platform that is hosted on is real. I mean, that's really the differentiator, because in the past, most ICOs were done on a website with no platform, and just a Ethereum address for Bitcoin address, and that's it, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So in a way, working with the right attorney and the right platform, in a way, will inform the investor that this is not a complete and utter fraud, which is, by the way, one level of concern that the regulators have. But then they have a concern where even if it's not fraud, if they're not using an exemption to regulation, what are they really selling?
Well, exactly. What are they selling?
I mean, it's the problem. So I think in the end of the day, the new reality is this: the SEC is here to stay. The state administrators are here to stay. What is not here to stay is the idea that you're going to issue utility tokens to whoever you want as an investment when the blockchain application doesn't even exist. That to me, that's a recipe for a career disaster for these people, and they are and being tied into lawsuits. I mean, it seems not doesn't seem productive because ultimately, at the end of the day, these entrepreneurs have dreams they want to achieve, and they need capital. And I guess that's why we're here on this podcast today, is to say the capital is actually here, and the method to raising the capital is here. Do you have anything else you can add at this point, Jeff, that would help entrepreneurs?
This kind of goes along with everything we've been saying. I see so many white papers and PPMs that state that the tokens will be tradable on exchanges. I've seen a lot of that lately, and that just kind of goes with the topic that we've been talking about. Is entrepreneurs should not state that the tokens will be trading on an exchange. If they're going to say something like that, there should be hedges. If the company decides to list the token and there is an available exchange that's licensed by the SEC, then companies got to be careful about statements like that.
Absolutely, and the difficulty here, and I can understand why a lot of the CEOs and entrepreneurs are frustrated, is the ATSs are not really live trading heavily right now. So there's a leap of faith going on right now from the investor and from the entrepreneurs as to understanding how this ecosystem is going to develop in the next 6 months. I remain optimistic, frankly, that it is going to be organized and it will work because the demand is there, right? If demand is there, and why not supply it? And the ATS is a way to do it.
I agree. And again, I don't think the SEC is, or the SEC is not trying to destroy this industry. They're just trying to protect the investors and get the fraudsters out. And just like, and I agree with what Clayton said, that doing this is a good thing for the industry, because if they don't eradicate this fraud, then the legislatures are going to just go way too far in the other direction and overregulate. And so I think what's going on now is good.
Good. Well, I'm glad we're you and I are really optimistic, excited about the prospect of the future. We all work with entrepreneurs every day who need capital to build extraordinary companies. And I always tell people that the dot-com boom for the internet happened in the early 2000s. And look today, if you take the top 10 companies in the world, I think half of them are internet companies, which is incredible. I mean, Google, the Facebook, Apple, I guess it's mostly an internet company at this point. Amazon, I mean, who would have predicted? What will it look like when 20 years from now, in terms of the top 10 companies in the world, will some of them be blockchain companies?
Yep.
Maybe Bitcoin will be on the top 10 list, even though it's not a company, but in terms of value, I think it's an exciting time for everybody to be participant. But the most important thing, even though it's exciting, is to do it the right way. Jeff, how do people get hold of you if they want to talk to you about your advice?
They can email me at Jeff alliancelegalinc.com, or I'm going to give out my mobile number. Then call me on my mobile phone, 949-887-8877.
Perfect. Well, you know what? I'm so excited that you're interested in talking to these entrepreneurs, because I'm equally interested in terms of getting hold of Start Engine. Of course, you know how to get a hold of us, but I'm also at hmarks@startengine.com. That is actually my marketing address, but I do, if there's any personal messages, I do reply to them. I'm not going to give my cell phone out yet. Maybe I should. I'll be as bold as Jeff. That's pretty exciting to have that. But anyway, thank you everybody for listening. If you have any questions and comments, you can put them in on the YouTube channel, but also please get a hold of Jeff, who's an extraordinary attorney in the space, who I think has innovated as much as anybody. And so happy you joined us today, and thank you again.
And Howard, I just want to thank you for helping all of my clients. Your team does a phenomenal job, and what makes it is the customer service. They're so responsive, and they just do a great job. So,
well, on behalf of our team, I thank you for the compliment, and I agree with you. I'm very proud of our team and how they care about our mission, which is to help entrepreneurs achieve their dreams. A lot of our people are rated on customer satisfaction, not on how much they raise. So it's all about the helping entrepreneurs. All right, well, this is over for today. I want to thank everybody for joining, and we'll have another event next week.
Thank you.